Sports and having lunch.
12.
We are back talking sports and having lunch.
12 o'clock. I got lunch with Steve Russell.
The Dean of Sports Talk is coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Studios.
A long run and a great run.
Make sure you search for Sports Scene on Facebook, YouTube, and over 30 audio platforms, including Apple and Spotify.
I've been listening to you basically since I was a little kid.
When you live in the community, be part of the community.
Sports Scene with Steve Russell is something that is so iconic.
And here's your host, Steve Russell.
Hello, welcome once again to another Sports Scene with Steve Russell podcast coming to you from the Body Armor podcast studio here in Gainesville. Body Armor leads the world of sports and active hydration with game-changing innovation. Body Armor is your sports drink. We've got a good show planned for you today. I've been kind of taking you around the SEC and college football with the Gator opponents. We're going to talk Texas A&M with Will Johnson. Gator baseball has Texas. We'll be talking to David Eckert, who covers Texas, to talk about the baseball matchup. And we'll also be talking to my buddy Buck Belue, who is in Atlanta, does radio there, former Georgia quarterback, obviously follows the Bulldogs. He'll talk to you about Georgia football in the spring and what to look forward to there. Don't forget, our gold sponsor is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in the financial life for over 90 years. Campus USA Credit Union. If you have a Facebook Live comment, just send it to us. Those are brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging, now with 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. Start feeling better today. It is your choice. And if you have a YouTube comment, you can pass that along as well. It's brought to you by QC Kinetics. If you have joint or muscle pain, you don't need surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. And all our clips of the day brought to you by Ruse Ogra, State Farm. State Farm agent Ruse Ogra is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for the service you deserve at the price you want. And all of our guests are courtesy of Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. I don't know if you saw this last night. After Florida in baseball swept South Carolina, I said on the air, they just were not a very good team. And Auburn beat them last night 24-2 in 7 innings. 24-2. So they are really, besides Missouri, a team that hasn't won a game, South Carolina is really struggling. And we'll see what happens as the Southeastern Conference tournament approaches, which is not too far away. Gators softball losing first game of the SEC tournament. They'll now await their regional fate. I'm pretty confident Florida's going to host a regional. I'm not sure if they'd be able to host a super regional if everything goes according to chalk. They still could, depending on what happens with some of the regionals, but that comes out on Sunday. Want to wish good luck to Gator lacrosse in the NCAAs, hosting today. If they win, hosting on Sunday. And how about both Gator golf teams, doing very well in postseason play. So congratulations to Coach Deacon, Coach Glazer, for doing a really, really nice job with those teams as well. We're awaiting Will Johnson here. We will get him on Monday on the show, if everything goes right. Cornelius Ingram is going to come by to talk about his son, his commitment to Gator basketball, how he got there, why he made his decision to play basketball. So that's going to be coming up on Monday on the program. And we're hoping to have somebody from ESPN to talk softball regionals and the final weekend of the regular season in college baseball. So that's what we have. But right now, we're going to talk a little college football. I've been taking you around the SEC with Gator opponents, Texas A&M, of course, on the schedule. And I'm going to bring in Will Johnson to talk about the Aggies. Hi, Will. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I appreciate you doing this. Look, every team just about went through craziness, in the offseason, losing people, getting people, then spring practice, then more portal. So as you look at the roster now, what do you see in terms of stability, and has it improved from a year ago?
I certainly think it's improved. As far as stability, what's kind of still there as far as veterans that have been in the program for a while, it kind of involves the run game on offense. The offensive line is back. All 5 starters are back, and then a couple reserves that played last year. Probably your top 7 offensive linemen are back, so that's a lot of stability right there. Marcel Reed, who obviously played quarter, didn't begin the season as a starter, but finished the season as a starter. He returns, and then 3 of your running backs return, although 2 of them were injured for much of last year. But there's stability in the run game with the offensive line, the quarterback, and some running backs. Defensively, you lose a lot of the defensive line. They'll be new up there. A couple of linebackers are back, and in the secondary, that front line is back. So offensively, you have returnees and stability in the run game. Defensively, it's kind of on the back 7, the back end, and where you're new is wideouts and pass catchers on offense, and up front on the defensive line on that side of the ball. So that's kind of where the stability is in some spots and the newness is in others.
Well, when you assess Reed's play, what do you think of what the job he did last year?
I think he's really good. I think he adds a new dynamic because of his legs. He can certainly run the football. That's why a lot of people think A&M will be able to run the football really well this year because of what I just said, offensive line, running backs, and the fact that Marcel Reed can use his legs as well. Needs to probably develop a little bit as a passer. I don't know if he was asked to do a ton in the throw game last year. It was a lot of short passes, a lot of manageable situations in the pass game, and then the Aggies kind of wanted him to beat you with his legs. That's kind of the questions this year. How does he develop as a passer? How does he mesh with some of the new receivers? The receivers that return, they didn't have a lot of experience last year. And then the ones that do have experience, they got that elsewhere at other schools. They came in the portal. So how does Marcel Reed develop as a passer, and how does he mesh with a new dynamic of wide receivers? Would probably be the concern. I think what he has done in spring, because he knew he was the starter, he's not really in competition. More of the competition at quarterback is to see who will be Reed's backup. Mm-hmm. So he kind of knew he was the starter, and he's developing a little bit of that leadership role with the offense. He kind of does it in a loose way. And he wants his guys to have fun, not feel too much pressure out there. He's not, I wouldn't call him too hard on his offensive players, his teammates. He kind of wants them to be loose out there, and that's his leadership style. But that's something he's developing now because he's the guy, and he knows he's the guy. And he was this spring, and he will be in preseason camp leading up to the year. So the development for him really needs to come in the pass game, and he's already started to become a leader of the offense. But you knew he has the legs. He can be a part of the run game. So that's where he's got an advantage over a lot of quarterbacks.
Gator fans certainly know, because the schedules are the same, except, flip-flopping them, that, it was a difficult schedule that Florida has. For those who don't know from a Florida perspective, when you look at A&M's schedule with the same teams with flip-flopping, what do you see with that in the league?
Yeah, I thought A&M got a little bit of a beneficial schedule last year. I don't look at it too different this year. The Florida dynamic this year is A&M is going to – they're going to have 2 home games non-conference to start the year. And on September 13th, they go to Notre Dame for the big non-conference game. On the 20th, they're off. So they're going to play Notre Dame and then get an off week pretty early. Probably earlier than most SEC teams are getting that first bye week. But then he's go into a stretch of 3 straight home conference games, Florida being the last of those. So you're going to have Auburn at Kyle Field September 27th. That's going to be followed by Mississippi State coming to A&M, and then the Gators come to College Station. So A&M's going to get that bye week before a rugged stretch of SEC games, although they are at home. But then Florida's going to be on the back end of it when you've kind of gone through it against Auburn and Mississippi State. So there's an interesting dynamic to the Florida game that it's at home, and it comes off of an early bye week, but it's then 3 straight SEC games, which will be difficult, and Florida being the final of those. But A&M, they avoid Georgia, they avoid Alabama, they avoid Tennessee on this schedule. I didn't think it was overly difficult last year, and A&M got out to a great start but faded down the finish. I don't think it's overly difficult this year. LSU is a tough game. Now you got to go to Baton Rouge. You don't get them at home. Texas is a tough game. You got to go to Austin. You don't get them at home. So maybe a little tougher in the fact that 2 teams that are expected to contend for a conference title, you don't get them at home this year. You got to go to their place. So maybe slightly tougher this year, but I still call this an advantageous schedule for A&M, somewhat like it was last year, kind of because of who you avoid with the Alabamas and Georgias and Tennessees of the world.
Will Johnson joining us here talking Texas A&M football. New head coach, your impressions of him and his stamp so far on the program?
It's attention to detail. It's very organized, and you almost state the obvious when you say this. Mike Elko's a very intelligent guy, because we always talk about down here that he went to the University of Pennsylvania. This is an Ivy League graduate. So a lot of intelligence. He just knows so much about so much, if that's kind of the way we put it down here. But I think the beauty of this is he said something very interesting last year after A&M lost the bowl game in Las Vegas to USC. Probably a game they should not have lost, but bowl games, not everybody suits up. So you don't have a full availability of rosters. But I thought he said something very clear and to his team after the game. I think that's very important. In year one, you're kind of finding out what a coach wants you to do. You're trying to figure out the playbook. You're trying to figure out how he wants you to practice. What does the meeting schedule look like? His discipline style. You're trying to find out so much in year one of a head coach that actually isn't football. It's just a lot of how will the program operate. And Coach Elko said to his team at the end of the last year after that bowl game that we're about to get a lot better in year 2, because now we're just going to play football. We're going to work on football. Spring ball is not about how to line up, how to get where you're going for this session of practice. You guys know me now, and I know you. And the new guys that are coming in, you returnees, you know what I want. You know how we practice. You know how we watch film. You know our meetings. You can teach them now. So year 2 is now football under Mike Elko. It's not let's all figure out each other and how we want to operate. So he thought they lost a bunch of time last year because of that, and that may have been part of what cost them down the stretch. It just wasn't enough football. Now they've just honed in. It's all ball, it's all playbook, and it's all, as he calls it, full go in regards to the game from here on out.
Last couple of minutes here, Will. When I ask this question, it's difficult to answer because I'm trying to have you speak for a fan base. But at Florida, there's a lot of hope now because of the way the season finished. They're in a lot of the preseason top 25 polls, and the expectation is for a lot of the Gator Nation is 9 wins and maybe a chance for the playoff. What do you think that is in terms of Aggie Nation?
I would think it's somewhat similar. It's hard. You kind of get it a little split because you can easily say last year A&M got off to a 7-1 start. They were on the cusp of the SEC championship game and a spot in the playoff, but didn't finish. So some Aggies in the 12th man down here say, we were this close, but it was not a good close to the season. You lost a game at South Carolina that they just ran away from you in the second half. You lost a game at Auburn, even though it was on the road. You probably should have beat them. And in the Texas game, it was only 17-7. I mean, it was a rivalry game, kind of what you expect, a dogfight. But Texas kind of pushed A&M around last year, in the trenches especially. So there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it dejection. Every season starts with new hope, doesn't it? It's not
Sure,
really,
it does.
it's not dejection, but wanting answers of why the Aggies finished that way. So it's almost like you have two camps. We were close. We just need that one final push, that one final play, and we might be in an SEC championship game and or the college football playoff. But then there's that question, but why did the Aggies finish so stumble down the stretch? So you got to show people you can finish before they believe you can finish.
Sure.
But I do think a 9-win season is possible. I don't. If you probably ask most pundits right now, I don't know if they put A&M at 9 wins. That gray area is about 8. You got to at least hit 8, but a 9th gets you into playoff consideration. A 10th probably puts you in the playoff. So in that aspect, A&M can definitely get to 8 wins. Can you? I think it comes down to, can you pull off one of those road games when you go to South Bend? Can you beat the Irish? They were in the national championship game last year. LSU is supposed to be pretty good this year. Can you win in Baton Rouge? A&M has not won in Baton Rouge since they've joined this conference. They've won the home games. They've taken care of business here at Kyle Field against LSU, but they hadn't won over in Tiger Stadium. And then now you're going to go on the road in a hostile environment in the rivalry game at the end of the year against Texas. I think a lot of if A&M is a playoff team or not is answered in, can you get one of those really tough road games at Notre Dame, at LSU, at Texas? And that's all predicated on holding serve at home.
Sure.
But Florida's coming in, Auburn's coming in, Carolina's coming in. You know, that's easier said than done than holding at home in this league.
Appreciate you being here, Will. And when the season rolls around, actually game week, we'll get you back and kind of analyze what's been going on. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you. Let's do it again.
You got it, Will. Thank you. Will Johnson talking Aggies as the Gators get set to face the Aggies later in the year. All right, next we're going to switch to Texas because Gator baseball is in Austin this weekend. We'll have a little preview of that coming up. Stay with us on our Sports Scene podcast.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
Welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast for this Friday. Well, we just talked Texas A&M football. Now we're going to talk Texas baseball because the Gators are in Austin to face Texas in a big series, the next to last one in the SEC. David Eckert joins us from the Austin American Statesman, who covers Texas. David, thank you for doing this. All right, a Gator fan is watching this or listening to this and doesn't know much about Texas. You look at the stats, it's pretty clear to me they're kind of a middle-of-the-road hitting team, but a very good pitching team on paper. Is that a good assessment?
Yeah, I think that's right. They've been without last year's Big 12 Player of the Year, Max Belue, in right field. So their lineup has definitely been impacted by that. But yeah, the pitching has been tremendous. they lost their ace Jared Spencer a few weeks ago, and they've been all right without him. And they've got two real quality starters, Ruger Riojas, Luke Harrison, who have done a great job. And then their bullpen is outstanding. They've got three guys, typically who come out of the pen and just they give you length, which is unique, right? Their Friday night guy last year, Max Grubbs, is pitching out of the pen and has been great. Dylan Volantis has the best ERA in the SEC as a true freshman. He's been awesome. Max Wiener, their pitching coach, is probably the best pitching coach in the country, and he's making his money for sure with this group.
Our guest, by the way, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Texas had been cruising, goes to Arkansas, and look, I don't know if there's panic here, but they really hadn't had a bad weekend.
Yeah.
And they were playing an Arkansas team that had not been playing up to Arkansas standards. What did you make of that weekend?
Yeah, I was there, and there was just a ton of juice around Arkansas, and it just felt like Texas got smacked in the mouth a little bit. And look, Texas, I think it's fair to say, and I think if you gave Jim Schlossnagle some honesty serum, he'd probably say the same. I think they're playing over their talent level by a pretty significant margin.
Really?
Yeah. Especially when you consider who they don't have, right? They don't have their Friday night guy to start the year, Jared Spencer. They don't have Max Belue, who coming into this season are probably their best two players, right? So, I think that was always going to happen at some point. And I think it makes sense because I don't know how familiar your listeners will be, but Arkansas hates Texas. Like, that is like number one on the list.
Yeah.
And so, it's not surprising that they went there and got smacked in the mouth a little bit. And we'll see how they respond because, you're at the time of the year where, you can't afford to carry those bad vibes forward. You got to be playing good baseball right now.
Tell us about the starting pitchers for the weekend, what they bring to the table.
Yeah, Ruger Riojas, crafty right-hander. He got smacked around by Arkansas really good, but before that, he had an ERA below 2. So he's been awesome. He's a UTSA transfer. He's not going to blow you away velocity-wise. Really, nobody they have will, outside of maybe one or two bullpen arms. But he's crafty. He has a really good slider. He's going to throw one or two ephus pitches, which
wow.
which will be fun. And then Luke Harrison, left-hander on Saturday. Similar profile, right? Like he's not going to blow you away. He's going to sit 91, 92. Good breaking ball, pitches to contact, just a solid guy. And then they've got a really exciting freshman that they're going to throw on Sunday, Jason Flores, right-hander. He throws a really nice cutter. He can sink and cut his fastball. A guy that's going to generate a lot of ground balls. He's going to be, he's pitched well for them so far. I think he has a really bright future too. So three pretty strong arms for them this weekend.
And it looks like there's some, despite the Friday night guy not being there, there's some depth to this pitching staff as well, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. Cade Bing is starting their midweeks for him. He's a guy who was the Saturday starter. So coming into this year, and then the bullpen has been outstanding. Really, if you're asking me like what the best part of this team is, it's the bullpen. They've got veteran guys who have been awesome in Max Grubbs, Andre Duplantier, and then Dylan Volantis, man. He's just a phenomenon. Left-hander, 6'6", 6'7", throws a sinker. from that angle that just generates a ton of ground balls, has a wipeout curveball. He's kind of taken on the closer role. So yeah, the bullpen has some real weapons for sure.
I gotta ask you this. How was that A&M Texas series with all the drama, with Schlossnagle leaving and going to Texas? How was that to be at?
It was awesome. It really was. And it was awesome despite, I think, because Michael Early, the guy, Texas A&M's coach, was a Schlossnagle guy. And so both sides, I think, really tried to take the emotion out of it, but it didn't work. I mean, it was there was so much just pent up energy. And I think, honestly, if A&M had won a game or two, because there were a ton of A&M fans at the Dish, I think it would have been, more juiced up. But yeah, I mean, you could just feel it. There was a moment on Saturday where Gavin Cash, one of A&M's players, he got ejected for going over to the Texas dugout, toward the dugout, and like jawing at him. Like, it was just a great rivalry series. And I think, again, we're talking about truth serum. I think that's one that Jim Schlossnagle would say that he's very glad to get out of the way.
Yeah, and I can understand that would be the case too. David Eckert joining us here, talking about the Florida-Texas baseball game. But real quick, a couple of football things.
Sure.
Arch Manning, who I have a lot of respect for, not because his last name was Manning, but not a lot of people wait their turn anymore. They go to the portal and go. He waited his turn. He's the guy. Texas lost a lot of talent, but what do you see with this team coming back on paper?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, like you said. I mean, on both ends of the trenches, right? Offense and defense, they lose a ton. Specifically on offense, I mean, they lost 4 starters, and not just 4 starters, but 4 starters who have been playing together for a very long time. And so that's a major question mark. They lost their top 2 wide receivers. They lost a tight end to the NFL. So on offense, there's just a ton that we don't know. And defense, there's definitely been some attrition, maybe not quite to the extent, but look, I mean, they're going to need Arch Manning to go win them some football games. It's not going to be, I think last year you kind of had this deal where, as long as Quinn Ewers back there did his job, the rest of the roster was good enough to just, kind of carry that. That I don't expect that to be the case. I think Arch Manning is going to have to go out and win some games for Texas next year.
Last thing. Look, you mentioned about Arkansas. That goes back to the Big 8. I mean,
Sure.
that's as far back as that goes. So there's some deep-rooted rivalries there, even, when they were in a different conference. Have Texas fans sort of wrapped their arms around being in the SEC?
Oh, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I mean, Texas fans like to feel superior, and being in the SEC allows them to feel superior. And I say that with love. That's not, but yeah, I think the Texas A&M rivalry, returning the fact that they still get to play Oklahoma, who made that trip with them. And then, like you said, I mean, Arkansas being back on the schedule, I think with a lot of these moves, you look at, like, for example, some of the Pac-12 schools joining the ACC, like, they just don't make sense. At least in a couple of cases, you are kind of going back to your roots with Texas here. Obviously, you're losing some of the in-state rivalries, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, but you're gaining some as well. So, I think Texas fans love it.
Great stuff. Where can people see your work?
Austin American Statesman. That's statesman.com. And you can follow me on Twitter. That's my name, David Eckert 98.
All right. Appreciate it, David. Good stuff. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right. Again, our sponsors brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law firm partner of the Florida Gators. If you have a YouTube comment, you can pass it along. Sponsored by QC Kinetics. If you have joint or muscle pain, don't need surgery, drugs, or downtime, schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. If you have a Facebook comment you want, those are brought to you by Titan MRI and Imaging, now with 2 locations in Gainesville, 1 in Lake City. Start feeling better today. It is your choice. Our gold sponsor, Campus USA Credit Union, putting star power to work in your financial life for over 90 years. And we want to thank Body Armor for sponsoring our podcast studio and sponsoring our Sports Scene podcast. And our clips of the day brought to you by Ruse Ogra, State Farm. State Farm agent Ruse Ogra is your go-to agent in Gainesville and North Central Florida for service you deserve at the price you want. All right, we talked Texas A&M. We talked Texas. We're going to continue our look around the SEC with Gator opponents. We're going to talk the Dogs, Georgia, coming up next. Stay with us.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Ruse Ogra for your personal price plan today.
I'm tired of you living in pain, and I want you to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulders, and hips. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Stop putting it off. Call now and schedule your free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now in Gainesville, Ocala, and the Villages. 352-400-4550. 352-400-4550.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
All right, welcome back to our Sports Scene podcast. My next guest I have known a long time, and he's a good guy, and he's going to talk. We've been going around with the Gator football schedule, bringing on guests to talk about opponents. This time it's Georgia, and Buck Belue now joins us. Buck, good to have you. I got to ask this. We saw this in Gainesville kind of when Urban was here, that stretch where they were ultra successful, but then there were some off the field things, and it really, things kind of started grading. I get that sense a little bit with Kirby, that a grind, I guess it is. Do you buy into that at all?
What is tough staying on top? Easier to get to the top than to stay on the top. Yeah, I certainly believe that. I tell you, though, Kirby's embraced the challenge, and just expecting these Bulldogs to be right back in that college football playoff situation again this year. I know this is the biggest turnover Kirby's ever had as far as the starting units go.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
See, they're replacing 16 to 18 starters coming into this season. That's the bad news. The good news, though, is Kirby and his coaching staff have put together recruiting classes in the last 3 years that were first, second, and third nationally. So I think what it is a lot of these national analysts just haven't had a chance to see these young Bulldogs play. They've been developing behind the scenes. There's talent on both sides of the ball, but the expectation is the same, to go out and win the SEC and be in that national title hunt.
When you look at your quarterback, I have a lot of empathy, because he had to come into a tough situation at the end of the year there. What do you, from a quarterback's eyes, Buck, what do you see with him?
Well, I tell you what I love about Gunnar Stockton. There are a lot of things to love. Number one, Stevie does everything well. Now, he's not going to flash elite skill sets, with those different skills that he has, but he does everything well. I mean, he can stand in the pocket and throw the football. He can extend plays, make plays outside of the pocket. He can pass it. He can run it. He leads, which is a great trait to have when you're trying to win big. These other players respect him. And I tell you, I don't know who Paul Feinbaum's been talking to, but he's getting some bad information when he's bad-mouthing Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton went back and took a look at the Notre Dame Sugar Bowl playoff game. Again, Fighting Irish was one of the top defenses in college football this past year. And when I left watching Gunnar play, really just specifically watching Gunnar Stockton, came away very impressed. As you mentioned, he's thrown in a bad situation, hadn't played much. I think that was the mistake. They didn't find playing time for Gunnar Stockton earlier in the season. So he's thrown in to the biggest games of the season against really tough competition. And I thought he held up pretty well if you go back and watch him play.
The wide receiver core better?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And look, the ex-wide receiver spot is where they were hurting a year ago, where their two ex-receivers didn't even make it to the start of the season with some off-the-field problems. And so you look at this group this year, they're going to have a couple of guys out at the ex-wide receiver spot that they just tried to cover it up a year ago. And that was tough to do, but the kid coming in from Texas A&M, 6'6" receiver, is a guy, Noah Thomas, that looked good during the spring. You've got Colby Young, one of the guys that was unavailable to play a year ago, is now looking like he'll be back into the mix. There's another big receiver. And then C.J. Wiley, a 4-star wide receiver recruit from here in Metro Atlanta. So now they got three guys, knock on wood, right now entering the season. Dylan Bell is a reliable receiver. And Zachariah Branch out of USC, Southern Cal, is a guy to keep an eye on, a playmaker that's going to play that slot position. So, yeah, receiver is so improved. And right now it's the ex-receiver spot that is going to be the most improved position on the team.
There's been so many draft choices, Buck, that Georgia's had, with Kirby there, who've gone on to have really good NFL careers. Defensively, what's it going to look like?
Well, their linebacker position is very impressive. They're going to go 4 guys strong off the ball linebacker in those 2 linebacker spots off the ball in the middle of the defense. I think the edge is where the concern is. They tried to fix that during the transfer portal, getting the kid out of Army. That looks like he can come off the edge. Hey, you recruited the top edge player in the country in this previous recruiting class, and Elijah Griffin. So you might need to get something out of him. But it's the defensive line that is a concern coming into the year. The secondary looks good, though. They got Dylan Everett back at one of the cornerback spots. The other 2 young guys played a lot of football opposite him last season, and the safety position is really, really strong too. So it's that edge on the defensive line that appears to be the concern coming into the year. But I tell you, they're loaded with young talent. They're trying to develop them quickly and get them ready to win.
Has Kirby changed much, with all the success, with all of that? Is he still pretty much the same guy that, first he played there, but, as a head coach?
Well, I'm sure he's learned a lot. He's still motivated by winning and winning big. And I don't think there's a coach in the country outworking Kirby Smart. He's working smart. Hey, learn from the best, and Nick Saban over at Alabama. And he has put a lot of those things he learned in place in Athens. So he's outworking people. He recruits as well as anybody, Steve. And I don't think enough credit's given to his God-given ability, talents of communicating with the teenage male athlete. I mean, he does a great job on the recruiting trail, connecting with these guys, and then convincing them to come to Georgia and play for him. Because look, I know what he's selling out there. He's selling, come to Georgia and win big, and let us develop you and get you ready to play at the next level. Look, I know everybody's talking NIL, but those 2 things I just mentioned are so important, even before you start getting into the money end that we're dealing with now. But they're buying it. You know, Jared Curtis, the 5-star quarterback in the 26 class, just gave his commitment. And that's what he's spoken about, the ability to win big and then to develop your skills and get you ready for the next level. That gets that 5-star recruit's attention.
Last two things. Were you surprised Beck left?
Say that Beck left. Yeah, you know, nothing really surprises me anymore,
Yeah.
Steve, you know, but he was in a great situation here. That's the good question. Surprised? Yeah. I mean, putting myself in his shoes with the offensive line they've got coming back, the pro-style system they run under Kirby with Mike Bobo, the receiving core they put together, another good running back room. They've got everything you need to win big and get you ready for the NFL. Maybe it was just time for a change with him. But Gunnar Stockton's looking to step in and fill the void.
Last thing, you and I go back a long time, and we've seen a lot of football. And I mean, I get it where we are, but sometimes if I just take a step back, I have a really hard time sometimes wrapping my head around what in the heck is going on now in not just football, but, you know, all over. But look, people can sit and lament about all these kids making all this money, but you have to adapt, do you not? This is just the way it is.
Yeah, or adapt or move out of the way.
Right.
I mean, that's basically
Like Nick Saban did. Yeah.
I just never thought I'd see the day where I'd go to a Georgia G-Day spring football scrimmage and see on that big video board will come up and you've got the head coach Kirby Smart asking basically for donations from the people sitting in the stands. I never thought we'd get to this day, but here we are. A lot of it is all about the money. What can you do for me financially? And, you know, it's what every recruit wants to know. And if they don't, I mean, just take a look at where Tennessee's at right now with Nico moving on. They are not ready to fill that void with him leaving. And I tell you, he took a big hit financially by making the move. So it's the Wild West out there.
No doubt. When Florida, Georgia happens this year, you know we're going to get you back. But where can people hear you, see you, whatever? Give yourself a plug.
Well, 680 The Fan, Atlanta, Georgia. Get that Fan app. You can listen anywhere, anytime with the Fan app. I'm now Monday through Friday, 6 to 8. I'm in prime time, Steve. I finally made it.
Yeah.
And then Saturday mornings, 9 to noon. Loving it. Playing a lot more golf. That handicap's going down. Life's never been better, my man.
Good. Good to have you, Buck. Thank you for doing this, my friend.
Good to be with you.
You got it. Thank you. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our Sports Scene podcast for today. Stay with us.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
After you work out, you can feel worn out. Reach for Core Power and rise to a whole new level of recovery. Protein to build muscle. Electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to power on. Champion your recovery with Core Power.
Is your bank dropping the ball, not playing with heart or skill? Then you need to check out the scouting report on Campus USA Credit Union. That's a 5-star recruit if I've ever seen one. Campus has it all, like great rates and products, friendly service, and smart game plans for you and your money. So why not put some star power in your financial life? Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Honey, can I recruit you to take the garbage out?
All right. We're just about at the end of our podcast for today. Let me end on a couple of things. I think most of you know I follow New York teams for the most part. I'm so excited for my Knicks. I did not think they would have a chance to beat the Celtics, let alone beat them twice in Boston Garden. Doesn't mean the Knicks are going to win the series, but at least, because during the regular year, the Celtics just destroyed them. It was so good. And to come back and get those wins, pretty nice. So that was nice to see. With Gator baseball, I believe Florida needs 13 wins in the league. In other words, 2 more to get to where you're going to be comfortable being in a regional. 12 could get you in, but I'd lose sleep before the selection committee made their choice with just 12 wins. And that would mean you were 1-5 down the stretch here in the SEC, which doesn't look good either. I think if Florida goes 5-1 and gets to 16 league wins, depending on how everything else shakes out, could Florida sneak in as a regional host? I think it's possible. As I mentioned earlier about Gator softball, we'll see what happens. They're going to host a regional. We'll see if they get to host at least on paper, a super regional. And we'll find out about lacrosse and see how they do in the NCAAs as they host first and second round action this weekend. So a lot is happening. But today, I want to thank our guest, Buck Belue, 680 The Fan in Atlanta, talking Georgia football. David Eckert with the Austin American Statesman, talking about Florida Texas baseball. Will Johnson talking Texas A&M football. And again, I want to thank our sponsors, Body Armor, that sponsors our